Army reforms taking years and costing nearly 300 XP just to clear your debuffs. Bad RNG with the warlords, where you might have to spend more than 1000 PP just to integrate the warlords, and you can't declare war on them. Unlike a certain other guy. And one of my pet peeves, early truck research that has absolutely no impact on gameplay, only serving to hinder China from completing one of the more challenging branches of its focus tree. Believe me when I say I've tried a lot of strategies. But alas, this is China, probably one of the most annoying nations to play as. So many convoluted mechanics. Wouldn't it be great if we could just skip through all those unnecessary game mechanics that just make playing China a pain? Well, it appears I have found just the thing. Today I will be demonstrating a strategy that will revolutionize the way you play China. Unfortunately for us, we still need to rely on a bit of RNG. However, this strategy requires minimal setup at the start. Like the vast majority of other guides on China, we will be beelining down the path to subjugate the warlords. Our only prayer to RNGesus will be for Guangxi to refuse. And why is that so? Well, let me let you in on a little secret. Spoiler alert, for this campaign, we will actually be playing as the Guangxi Clique. However, bear in mind that we started as China, which means all our China achievements are still available. This is because the Iron Man code only detects the nation you started as and not any nations you might have played as along the way, so long as the game remained in Iron Man the whole way through. Now, why do we want to play as Guangxi? Aside from the obvious fact that it is the only warlord with a coast, it is essentially a mini China. And in fact, I would say that in itself is an understatement. It is, in many ways, even better than China. For one, you don't have to deal with Japan too soon. You also don't start with army corruption and are free to spend your XP on improving your doctrines or templates. And of course, you get to benefit from the effects of fascism, faster war goal justifications, and integrated puppets from the get-go. So now back to China. Production-wise, we're gonna dump everything on guns. You can skip the following research part, but I prefer to do it so that China will be stronger against Japan when I leave it in the hands of the AI. Whether each warlord accepts or refuses is already decided at the beginning, so expect to save scum a few times to get the desired result. Therefore, I'm keeping the starting setup simple. We trade with France to strengthen France because they will be the first nation we will be killing as the Guangxi Clique. Now we set up our armies. The 6 battalion infantry templates go to the Guangxi Clique, and the 3 battalion infantry templates go to Shanxi. Delete some of the 3 battalion templates if you lack guns. Now I believe that we're all lazy people, so ideally we want Guangxi to refuse and Shanxi to accept, so we don't have to divert our attention to kill them. However, should Shanxi refuse, we have to kill them because we'll have a war goal on them. I don't trust China in the hands of the AI to kill them in time, and God forbid if they are still at war with Shanxi when Japan comes knocking, China will actually join Japan's faction, which will complicate things by a lot. I fast forwarded to a successful save, and in this save, Shanxi has refused and Guangxi has also refused. Now we put our plan in motion. Shanxi is very easy to kill, but the same can't be said for Guangxi. It will be a battle of maneuver. Use your superior numbers to maneuver around their troops as much as possible and snipe their victory points. Now's when the magic begins. After helping out China with their garrison laws, we release and play as the Guangxi Clique. We cancel the focus that the previous AI has taken for us because we sorely need the PP. Our first build order is a single dockyard in our capital state. We have enough guns, so we dump all our mills on transport planes. Yeah, now you know why we traded with France. Put a single battalion cavalry division into training. Don't forget to research paratroopers. Research-wise, I leave it mostly up to you, but focus on your industry, support equipment, artillery, and infantry weapons. First 150 PP goes to the fascist demagogue. Our first dockyard is set to convoys, because honestly, we have nothing else to produce. Now we start mill construction in our capital state. This is important because the other 3 states on the Guangxi mainland will go to the enemy during the Civil War. Again, let's trade with our dear friend France. And now we have started the process towards a civil war. When the Civil War ends, we justify a war goal on the United States. After this focus finishes, we don't take any more focus. We need to save up PP to justify on France. Marco Polo. Let's see how our Super China is holding up. Around this time, when you see the tension and political power as such, we cancel our justification on the US and start justifying on France. And then as soon as we have enough PP, we justify on the US again, because we will need high world tension and improve relations in order to join the Axis. We use what little convoys we have to begin sending our troops to Italy step by step. Also get war economy the moment you get 150 political power. Now we can take this focus to improve our stability. Now, under normal circumstances, you will want to root out corruption. However, we lost that bad spirit after our civil war. Therefore, we can fully embrace the opium trade. Anschluss is our cue to begin improving relations with Germany. This will slightly decrease the tension requirements for joining Axis. Once we hit 50 transport planes, we can trash that line and start producing the infantry equipment that we need. We can now convert 8 of our CAV template to the basic paratrooper template. Our war goal on France has finished, but we can't quite join the Axis yet, so we justify on the US. We can now join the Axis. We proceed to paracap France using the 1 AM exploit so that they can't call in the UK. How this exploit works is that faction members can only get call in at 1 AM of each day. Therefore, we save and reload the game at 1 AM of each day so that France will be alone in this war. While at war with France, I justify on Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. If you're feeling up to the task like me, we can immediately declare on Czechoslovakia after 30 days and then justify on Yugoslavia for 25 days while fighting the UK. If not, you got 60 extra days for you to build up. While at war with the UK later, you can choose who you want to justify on, although I highly recommend Poland and Communist China. In the peace deal, we are going to do what I call pseudo-puppeting. Basically, we will change the government of France in just one state and we will puppet the rest of mainland France. So we are essentially creating a new puppet whose tag will be D something instead of FRA. Why do we do this? When we puppet a country after they capitulate, all their troops currently on their core territories would be gone. Whereas if you get a separate tag, you can have access of up to the entire French army that existed before you capped them, which can be up to 50 units, which is far more than 7 to 12 units you will get than if you just puppeted France originally. Now we sea lion the UK. The general idea would be just to rush the gaps and try to take London at all costs. The AI loves to force deploy troops when you land, but you can just rush the gaps, stretch their front lines and wait for them to move out of London. I shall skip ahead to the peace conference. To see my invasion of UK in full as well as this full run, refer to the link in the description below. In this peace conference, we have declared on Communist China earlier to prevent them from causing troubles later on when we are trying to reunify China. I know it's very tempting to want to take Communist China for yourself, but we must liberate them to China. Firstly, the AI cannot handle a player-led China that has been passed to it, and as you will probably see later on, China will not be doing half as well against Japan. Therefore, we need to strengthen China as much as possible and make sure that Japan's borders never touches our borders. This brings me to my second point. As a Chinese warlord, we absolutely cannot share a border with Japan, and as Japan has now pushed into Shanxi, annexing Shanxi, or the home base of the communists, would give us a direct border with Japan. This doesn't seem like a problem at all. However, after over 2,000 hours of experience, I have discovered quirks with the Japanese AI. If you as the player are playing as any Chinese nation, be it China, Communist China, or any of the warlords, if you share a direct border with Japan, Japan will garrison its home islands with 3 to 4 times as many units. This obviously makes it far harder to invade them, and it is even worse if you want to do an Order 66 on them, as I am doing now to Italy. Now again, if you just want to gun for the awake and angry achievement, you can skip killing Italy, Germany and even the US. The French and British industry is definitely enough to overcome both China and Japan, and with the allies out of the way, no one will try to guarantee any of your targets and you are free to expand as you wish. Again, the full run is in the description below, so I shall skip ahead to the next critical step of our strategy. We first justify a war goal on Japan. Once the war goal is done, join Japan's factions and we will station all our puppet troops on their significant victory points. When ready, delete all puppet expeditionaries and immediately declare war, then request back all their forces. With a bit of micro, we destroy Japan in short order. If you are lucky, you will have just enough score to annex every single core state of Japan. If not, you'll have to settle for puppeting them, which is why I saved up all this PP. Now it's time to attack China. China is already very weak and now has been left even weaker. There will be plenty of gaps in the front lines for you to exploit. Just beware of Soviet volunteers. If you are struggling, do naval invasions to further stretch China's front lines. That's what my two other armies are going to do, just after capping the USA. Also, we are going to take some of our puppet divisions and naval invade into towns without ports. Our primary purpose is just to get them encircled and killed, because we will be releasing and playing as China and we do not want them to be used against us when we attack the Guangxi Clique. Sending them to their deaths also draws away enemy units from the front lines. One important thing to note is that we must diplo-annex our pseudo-puppets of UK and France before we release and play as China. They are extremely powerful, have many units, and have a very decent chance of becoming a major. And that will just suck later on. The Guangxi army has finally taken all of China. We take all the states, but we give some of China's core states to some of our puppets. This is so that when we release and play as China later, we can justify quicker war goals, as those states will be our cores. Yes, I know, this is a war crime. Now we delete all our templates except for our garrison template. We also edit our garrison template to consist solely of medium tanks. Spend all your PP on useless stuff and waste all your army XP. Fire all advisors. We are going to absolutely destroy this country which we so painstakingly built from the ground up. But it's all going to be for the better. We are now back as China, and we justify a retake core state war goal on one of Guangxi's puppets. We are going to spam as much cav as we can to take them over within a few days. A hell of a peace deal later, here we are. China is now the undisputed superpower of the world, and it is only 1940. Now if you want to get the achievement, you can just straight up release Japan and go after them. However, as usual, I'm going to be beating up the last of the great powers. Enacting vengeance for the century of humiliation. Especially Sweden here, because fuck paradox. China was already hard enough as it is. They didn't have to add early truck research to further delay our truck research and increase the cost of transport planes, making it harder to paradrop into Japan. I'm going to fast forward to year-end 1941. Because when you're invading Japan for the achievement, there is something important that you must take note of. When we attack Japan, you will see that Japan has no territory on the mainland. Therefore, it will immediately sue for peace. Unfortunately for us, if you want the Awake and Angry achievement, you must choose the first option. The war has been won. Yeah, Paradox really didn't want to give us the satisfaction of total victory. But as I already have the achievement, I shall only be satisfied with total, complete victory this time. And this is the world as of 1st December 1941. The century of humiliation has been avenged. China now has colonies in Europe, Korea has been given Kyushu, the Ainus have their own homeland, and the rest of Japan has been annexed by China. An extremely base timeline indeed. Now, I have to concede that this strategy is not necessarily easier than holding off Japan and then counter-invading them later on as the devs intended. However, you definitely cannot deny that this gameplay is far more interesting and engaging than just playing a defensive war for 2 to 3 years. I mean, it's 1st December 1941, and we have already removed all 7 majors from the world stage. If you play China the traditional way, you would probably have defeated Japan 1 or 2 years ago, and now you'll probably just have finished invading either the Soviet Union or the Allies. Either way, you're going to be facing a late game Allies or Axis, and that would be an absolute slog. But I guess the worst part of all is that as a non-aligned country, you cannot manually justify war goals earlier on while being attacked by Japan, as world tension will still be less than 50%, and war goal generation would take very long, even if you have a backroom backstabber in your cabinet. There's a whole long list of gripes I have about China, and honestly, it could be a video of its own. But I'm gonna stop things here. Remember that this strategy can also be applied starting as Guangxi Clique to get the battle cry achievement. And this time it will be easier because you can flip fascists faster and attack France earlier. Once again, if you want to see my full China, or more accurately, hybrid Guangxi China playthrough, check out the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you find this strategy as fun, exciting, and engaging as I certainly did, even if it was really cheesy.